Hey Jay,
Hey.
I thought we'd do a real talk episode because we haven't done one in a while.
I know, it has been a while.
So I thought we'd do real talk on emotional healing.
I need to, get all cylinders firing for this one.
I need to keep an eye on my spice level about it.
No.
Oh.
No. People like the spice.
I just think as someone who, some of it's personal though.
Yes.
Let me explain this.
Okay.
As someone who worked in the industry for a long time, doing like private sessions and coaching, one of the things that I would run into a lot would be people who were, I'm not mad at the people, I'm mad at the people who are telling them the wrong things, just
Correct.
to be clear.
Right.
But I'm running into people who are like, well, if I just heal this one thing, if I shift this one block or this one vow, then everything in my life will be better.
I used to feel that way.
And then in addition to that, I'm running into people who are like, oh my God, I've screwed up. I slid backwards because the same issue is back in my life.
Oh.
In
Gotcha.
those two things, the amount of frustration I would get where people would be like, I mean, people weren't looking at me like it was my fault that their life was, but I don't mean it like that, but like that they were so disappointed.
Right.
And I understand. I was never mad at them. It's like it's a spice level and a frustration with the fact that like people who do healing work of whatever kind,
Right.
lead people to believe that based on like their marketing, based on like this magic thing that I'm gonna give to you that I have, not that you have.
It's going to fix you.
I'm gonna do the fixing of you, and then everything in your life's gonna be better and easier, and you'll never deal with this issue again.
Which completely ruins the expectations.
And it sets you up to fail.
Right.
It ruins the expectations and it sets you up to fail. And so I get spicy about it because if you've probably done some great healing work in your life.
Right.
And then had something like this happen because you had this misconception and like undid it or didn't appreciate or like didn't realize how awesome you are and how much amazing work you did.
Right.
You like discounted it.
Because you just want to be fixed.
Yeah.
Right.
But I know it's not popular, but there's no fixed.
Well, that doesn't sell products.
No.
It doesn't spike engagement.
I know.
When you're honest and truthful, like that doesn't sell. You know?
I know, but it's like, it's real. Like the amount of, just as a person in this industry, and I know you've had to do this too with energy healing, the amount of fixing of like hurt that people do to other people is so maddening.
Yeah.
Like
I just had a Reiki session the other day, which I don't do many anymore, but I did an in-person session for someone, and she was like, "Oh, how often do you recommend I do Reiki?" And you know me, I gave her the same spiel that we give everybody. I mean, if you're a regular listener of this podcast,
You've
you
heard
know
it.
how we feel about
You
this.
can say it along with her.
Right.
Jamie,
like
tell them.
we work for a while together.
Yeah.
And then you shouldn't need me anymore.
And when you do,
I should taper off. Like we should taper the appointments off, and then you should just be seeing me for like maintenance.
Yes, or
right?
something
A
big
check-in.
happens. Yes.
Right, or something some bad thing or even a good thing happens, right? Like
Yes.
And she said to me, "Oh," she's like, "I wanted to see what your answer was. I wanted to see if you were going to say that I have to see you every week."
Yeah.
So like I passed the test.
Right, but she was smart enough to do the test.
Exactly, but that tells me that she's seen enough bullshit that she had to like test me to see if I was going to try to scam her or sell her some bullshit thing.
No, I don't. No.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it's so frustrating because now not only are you going to have to help that person heal that suspicion and that wound. Right, to like let you in to really help them.
Right.
Like it's going to delay the actual healing.
Well, and think about like to your point. She asked me this after our first session. So think about how guarded she was without even knowing it.
Right.
How like energetically guarded she was during the session.
Yes.
Right.
And how much like courage that takes to ask.
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
You know?
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I feel like I would be giving like a lesson for like the first few sessions I would do with people on like, let's undo a lot of the stuff you think before I can even get to helping you. Because when I do get to that big work, you're going to put it in the wrong box.
That's a good point.
And it's really tough.
Yep.
So let's set the record straight.
Let's.
Okay. This is one of those places where I'm not going to give the like little disclosure of like, this is how we feel. Form your own opinions. No. Some of this is opinion. I'll tell you when it is. But like, this is actually how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So I looked at healing and I thought, so we're talking about like emotional, spiritual healing.
Right.
But physical healing certainly fits the bill as well. But when I looked at like, what is the real definition of that? Like, where have we got off course?
Okay.
The definition of healing is the process of curing or of restoring to health.
Okay.
So I guess if you hear that, you're going to have a definition of what health is.
I was just going to say, I think health is not perfection.
Okay, but that's what we're told.
Exactly.
That's what we're taught.
Right.
That health is some sort of standard or perfection or having nothing wrong with you.
Right.
And that's ableism for one.
Absolutely.
Not everyone is born in that state.
Exactly.
In fact, probably nobody is truly born in that state.
Yeah, probably nobody.
Right? But it's this idea that like you can't be whole or you can't be healthy or like able to go out into the world and do what you need to do if you don't have this like strange level of perfection.
Right. And this is like unattainable goal that you can have people in like a hamster wheel just spinning trying to get to over and over again. Like you're forever trying to get there.
Yes,
but
exactly.
You can't.
The hamster wheel is a perfect explanation because you're never actually making any movement in that scenario.
Exactly.
You're running in place.
Forward,
yeah,
right,
exactly.
Yeah.
I also think of this energetic component that stands out to me, and I want to bring it up because it's probably one of those things that like maybe other people don't see that I see. You know how we like to talk about how I'm like always discovering this.
Yes.
So if you have some sort of physical thing that you actually do cure or heal, it doesn't leave your energy field.
Right.
So if let's say you break a bone,
and
you cast it, you do all this stuff, you get to the say 6-week mark, and they're like you're cured. Your bone is no longer broken.
Right. Healed. Fully healed.
Fully healed. Your bone has been restored to it's better than new. Energetically, your energetic body still has coded in it a broken arm.
Trauma, right.
Yeah, like it doesn't actually restore anything. It doesn't actually cure anything. Physically, yes, but energetically, no. And it doesn't mean that you're walking around with like some problem. Right. It's just like it's like code written about you, and it's like broken arm.
Right.
So when people are thinking of healing anything energetic, you can't think of it as like wiping it clean or getting rid of it.
Right.
You have to think about adjusting how you carry it.
Right, and processing it.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
I think everyone should, for homework, listeners, make your own definition for health.
Yes.
Get rid of the stupid ones you've been taught. They're probably all garbage. You probably have an idea of like your own health. Like, do you consider yourself healthy? And then ask yourself why or why not.
Right.
And if it has to do with the weight loss industry,
I was going to say your weight.
Drop kick it out the door.
Yeah.
Burn it.
To the ground.
Stomp on it after you burn it.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It has nothing to do with your weight.
No.
It has nothing to do with if you have a health issue. It has nothing to do with how able your body is.
Correct.
What does it actually mean to you?
Right.
And I mean, I could give you a definition, but I don't want to because I literally want everyone to like make their own because I think it's important to put your own language.
No, yours will fill in for them where they should be doing it themselves.
Exactly. And listen, it doesn't have to be the way your doctor would describe health.
No.
It's how you would describe health.
How you would feel if you were at your most healthy.
Yes.
How would you feel?
I think write out a description and then pick 3 words that represent it and have those 3 words, and then you can check in with yourself like, how am I feeling in these 3 areas?
And you're not allowed to use the word skinny.
No.
Ew.
I mean, I don't think you can see it from here, but I think you can confirm if you wanted to. You can't move this much because you'll hear it on the podcast, but I'll have Jamie during the break look on a bulletin board over to your left are my 3 words.
Oh, I have not seen them.
And so I look at those all the time because personally, my definition of health is perfection. I had to change that.
Yes,
I had to create that.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
That's a lot of where this like destructive body image, like rough relationship with my own body comes from, is the idea that like I'm trying to achieve a perfection and there's always work to be done.
Right.
Let's focus on the things that aren't right. So reforming it is important.
Yeah, perfection is impossible.
It is. And I'm always doing this thing where I look and I see someone else and like say they're like really fit. I'd be like, oh, I wish I could be that healthy. Whereas I have no idea how healthy they are.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's that like programming. I feel like it's that 90s programming of like what healthy is.
90s.
Yeah, exactly.
You have no idea what's happening in someone's body. Like
no
in their
idea.
mind.
Yes.
Even if you are like, it's not possible, but if you were like perfectly fit.
If all your labs were perfect.
Right?
Physically fit. Yeah.
Who knows what's in someone's mind, what their mental health is doing.
I mean, know. I feel like every time a celebrity commits suicide, people are like shocked, but I'm like, that doesn't, just because they like look well rich. And they're rich and they're famous doesn't mean that they're healthy or they're well.
And that's not to say that money doesn't help things. I just
money definitely helps everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how you keep the poor. That's how you keep the middle class, right?
Well, because that saying is like, so like money can't buy happiness. It's like, no, but it can create the space for you to actually be able to even consider happiness,
or like to feel safe. Like you need money in this economy.
Yes.
In this country, you need money to feel safe. You need money to survive. So I mean, that's not fair to say that.
Also, especially with our healthcare system. There's times when, I mean, I do well financially, and like I won't go to the doctor based on a financial, because I'm like, I'm not spending that much money.
Right.
What?
I know.
Like, so yes, you cannot.
That was a side.
But it's so important because it's
anti-fascism.
But it's really important here because if you're associating these things with wellness or health, that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and you also have to know the obstacles that you're facing. Like you can create this like definition of health and get the 3 words, but if you're living in a society that makes it really hard, to eat well, to feel good, to have time to exercise, whatever, you have to know like the system that you're in that's working against you.
Oh, it's not a fair race. We're not running a fair race here. Some of us are running one that's far easier. We started 3 laps ahead.
True.
12 laps ahead.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to know that, and you have to adjust your expectations for yourself, because it's also not healthy to like force yourself to do all this stuff and like not be happy because you're trying to make sure you exercise and only eat a salad or whatever bullshit thing you have in your head. That's also not healthy.
No, exactly.
That's why you need your own perspective, your own definition. Yep. How can you gauge if you're on track for that, if you're well, if you're healthy? How do you gauge that?
Yep.
And it cannot be what a doctor says. It cannot be what
a magazine,
some fitness influencer says. Yeah. And listen, I love fitness.
I aged myself when I said magazine.
You did.
It was just what the internet tells you is what I meant to say.
I love a good magazine. Honestly. You know what I find myself doing? When I'm talking about something I saw on TikTok, I'm like, well, I read this thing.
That, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Because people won't take you seriously if you say, I heard a TikTok, watched a TikTok.
I read this thing / I saw it on TikTok.
I read it on the screen.
Someone suggests that you say, you know what I read in the New York Post? And then say a TikTok. And people will take it more seriously. Yeah. I think that probably depends on the age of the person you're talking to.
I think so.
Okay. The next part of this is when people say that they are healing or working on healing, or like, I want to heal. Mm-hmm. My first question is, what do you mean by that? Like, what does it look like if you're healed or healing?
Okay.
Like what? Because a lot of people are healing to something. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to heal to this level or to this element.
Gotcha.
And that's never going to work.
Okay.
You can only heal to a state. You can only heal to an emotional place.
Good point.
You can't actually heal otherwise, because I can do all the right things my whole life and then suddenly get cancer. Like,
that's true.
You cannot be so focused on these like outside things.
Right.
Should you pay attention? Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Should you go get blood work done? Should you take care of yourself? Yes.
Right.
I'm not saying don't worry about it because shit's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I'm also saying it can't be outside of you. It has to be something in your control.
Right. In a way you're feeling.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of times when I would say to people like, okay, what are we working on? And they'll be like, I want to heal this and I want to heal that and blah, blah, blah. And I'll say like, why? First of all, that's my favorite question to ask ever.
And it's hard.
It's hard because they haven't thought of that.
Right.
And until you can say, I helped them figure it out. But like, until you can say that, you're not going to get there.
No.
We talked about this on our goal setting episode.
True.
Where it's like when people say like, oh, I want to like start a fitness routine and lose, 20 pounds. And I'll go, why? And they won't be able to answer. And I'm like, you're never going to do it. It's not going to work. Like if someone can't answer that and it's not like a positive thing, if you say like, because I'm a fat ass, you're never getting there. Like it's real easy to see, right? So like knowing why, like why are you doing work on yourself?
Because the energy behind it sucks.
Yeah.
If you're just saying I'm a fat ass, I can't look like this.
Yeah.
You're running on shitty energy.
And you have no energetic thing to work towards.
Correct.
You're just saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Spoiler alert, you're going to suck on some days.
Right.
The best people, I don't know who they are, but they're somewhere. They're better at everything than all of us.
Right.
They still have days that they suck.
Well, and you hear this all the time, like when people have like weight loss surgeries.
Yes.
And then like they transfer addictions, right?
Yes.
Because they're looking for a physical goal. Yeah. Like they want a physical change.
Yes.
But the work doesn't happen behind that to support the physical change.
Exactly.
So then that energy just goes somewhere else.
Yeah, it reminds me of when somebody wins the lottery and then like loses it all.
Right.
And it's like, well, they didn't heal any part of their like energetic relationship with money.
So it still sucks. Right.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm not trying to weaponize like you deserved it. No.
No.
But you can't.
No.
Everyone is like ignoring the most important part.
Exactly.
So I think it's worth
noting,
looking at, and it's worth going to. So why do you listeners? I mean, I know why you listen to this podcast, but why do you do the work? Because the work is sweaty and messy and emotional and hard. So Jamie, why do you want to do this healing work?
See?
And it's hard because it's not an answer that is easily just cultivated into a sentence.
Right, I can't say it in one sentence.
Yeah.
But for me, I started doing the work because I felt like I needed... Well, I've said this before. I actually started doing the work for my kids.
Yes.
Because I wanted to be a better parent. And I saw that my own shit was getting in the way of me being a good parent.
Yes.
So I knew that like I couldn't just paste on a happy face and be like, I'm not losing my temper. I'm a great mom. So I had to look at like my issues around the way I was parented, like my own, like managing my emotions.
Yeah.
And that started with me.
Yeah.
It wasn't something I could just like read a parenting book on.
Exactly.
Because I'm not actually fixing my own shit.
And then once you started doing, don't worry, I'm going to simplify this for everybody. But once you started doing that work, why on earth would you ever continue?
Well, I'm a Scorpio rising.
True.
Right? So like that plays a part. Like there's a million reasons why you would like the work or run from the work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm a person who runs head first into the work.
You do.
But the more work we did, I did with you.
Yeah.
The like easier things got in my life. Like I saw stuff just clearing out of my life. Yeah. And when I cleared things in one part of my life, like really cleared it, not just the face of it, right? Yeah. But like really did the work and healed the stuff underneath. Yeah. It was clearing all over. Yes. In all other parts of my life. Yes. Right. So like you start to like heal stuff with your emotions and feeling safe, and then you notice that like you're booking more sessions. Like I'm booking more sessions. I'm making more money.
Because shit heals across the board. Because it's an emotional issue. Right. Yes.
So like things are getting better all over the place.
And I think that was so perfectly said, because if I'm going to make it simple for everybody of why anyone does this work, it's because they want to have a better experience.
Exactly. That's
just in life. Right. And that's what you're saying. You did the work. You were motivated because you wanted to be a better mother. You wanted to have a better experience as a mother, and you wanted your kids to have a better experience growing up. Right. So that motivated you. And then you got there and you did the work, which is sweaty and hard. And you have to like admit truths about yourself that you don't want to. That's probably the problem.
And you have to admit stuff about your parents that you don't want to admit. Yes. Even if they're the most perfect people in the world. You still have to look at like mistakes that were made and experiences that happened. And like... Sometimes you don't want to look at that.
It's ugly. It's tough. And it's admitting things about yourself and like going like, oh, that thing I protect, let's grab it. Let's expose it for all to see.
Let's drag it out into the daylight
Yes,
and look at like why we've been avoiding this thing for 25 years.
Yeah, but the truth, yes, exactly. And then the truth is when you do it and you push through to it, right? Some part of you, I think you have to be a curious person to keep pushing. I really do.
True.
I think that aspect, and which is an intuitive trait,
Right.
That's why so many intuitive people are doing the work. But once you do, you realize that your experience as a human here has improved so much that you only want to continue to do it.
Right.
And if that's why you're healing, if that's why you're doing the work, because you want to have the best experience possible that you can at all times, that is a great gauge.
Yeah.
That's in control.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with like outside things you can't control. Bad shit's still going to happen to you.
Right. And like if you're healing to like earn someone else's love, or to like be good enough for someone, or to meet someone else's expectations, you're never going to get there.
No.
It has to be about how you want to feel, your own expectations for yourself, and like how you want your life to look.
Yes.
It has to be about you.
And even if you start motivated the way that we both did, which was like, holy shit, I'm responsible for these other humans.
Right.
And like the script in my head was like, they deserve a better version of me than the one that's here.
Yes.
I know she's there. I know she exists in me, but I can't.
100%.
The one that's here is like feeling really damaged. That's how I would have described myself, right?
I would have said mine felt really out of control.
Okay. So that, it's like this broken element of me that felt like it was the only part, like I was trying to overcome it to be anything just mediocre.
Right.
So that was the initial motivation. But I quickly realized that the more I cared about myself, the more I was like taking on and not handing to my kids to heal.
Exactly.
You're not going to have to heal all. There's going to be a lot you're going to heal because I'm not going to get to all of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do some of it. I'm going to hand you some new shit too.
Right, exactly. Right.
But
your life will.
Not all of this will continue to you.
Right.
That was a thing that was like, okay, and the better I'm taking care of myself, the better my kids' experiences directly. Like it was amazing. I know you hear it all the time, but like when you see it in real time, it happens. And I think this is why some people kind of become addicted to it.
Yeah.
In an unhealthy way.
Yes, agreed.
Where they're just like constantly excavating all the bad things to become this better person.
Right.
But like you're not becoming a better person.
No.
You're just becoming a person having a better experience.
Right. That's a good point.
You're not earning anything. Like your self-worth is not based on how healed you are.
No.
But you go to some of these like retreats.
Yep.
You go to some of these people and it's like, it makes me think of Teal Swan a little bit. We did an episode on her. Like the script of like.
That's a good point.
The way you exist here, like almost like those people, like someone like Teal presents herself as better or above everybody because she's has this intuitive knowledge that's made her heal herself more. And she can heal you.
And you need me to pull you up here to my level.
No.
Right.
No, you don't. No.
You know what I also think is a good trait to have?
What?
If your fight or flight response
is fight. Yeah.
I think us fighters.
Yeah.
That will like sort of run into it.
Well, right, because we're naturally going to need to fix the thing in front of us.
Correct. Like once I know about a problem.
Yeah.
That's the thing about your ego, is that it'll hide it from you.
Right, as if it's not actually affecting you.
Right.
Yeah.
But like if you bring something up to me, I'm like, all right, let's do it.
You're also like the fastest shifter of things. As soon as you see it, you like energetically shift immediately. Like, I'm going to say in the whole world.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm giving you that title.
All right, I'll take it.
It's instant.
Right.
You're so claircognizant that I think that before I've even said it, like if I'm energetically taking in the information, you're already shifting it. Like you don't need me to even say it out loud. I mean, you do. You'd like me to say it out loud, but I don't think you need me to.
Right.
Like it's this incredible power to do that. And so I think when that's how you are, when you're fight, absolutely. People who are flight, so they're like the avoiders. What I see with them is they tend to fall like all the way down into the deep dark pit.
Yeah.
Like they go all the way. Like fighters, we're falling and we grab a branch.
We're like grabbing.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we let go and we're like, oh shit, we grab another one. But like we don't tend to go all the way down. I mean, I think I might have hit pretty close to the bottom at one point, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Where avoiders will just be like, I'm just going to avoid this till I hit the bottom.
Yep.
And then I'll figure out a way out.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it definitely is your programming that way too.
I just think it's interesting.
It's very interesting. When you are helping somebody heal, it's really good to know how their nervous system is responding.
Right.
If it's fight or flight or freeze.
Fawn.
Fawn. Because the way that you're going to need to help them is going to be different.
Exactly.
So like somebody who, if I was doing work and someone was trying to shift like a vow or a story that they had in their flight versus if they're fight, the way that I'm presenting is very different. Like somebody who's flight, I'm going to give them very small morsels and let them like work it through, absorb into their mind and come back. It's slower, but they shift. They get there.
Right.
Somebody who's fight, it's like, let me just lay all of it on the table and then we'll weed through a little bit by bit. It's very different.
Yeah, you challenge me.
Yeah.
Because like you'll like pose a question.
Yeah.
Like, what if this happens?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a bad outcome? And I'm like,
yeah. Well,
no,
that's
we're
also the
running
best
at it.
technique for you personally.
Right.
You're my favorite person to do this to, and you're also like, talk about like soul contracts like we talked about in last week's Obsessed. Like
Right.
I'm someone who all I want to do all the time ever is
Right.
this work with
Analyze,
people
right.
and like figure it out and see it and solve the mystery. It's the Sherlock Holmes part of me.
Right.
And I'm constantly squelching it. I'm constantly editing it. I'm constantly trying not to
Right.
do that to everybody because
Right.
people have not asked.
Right.
But then I become best friends and have a podcast with someone who
It's
there's
so
nothing in their
traumatized.
life that they love more than
Right.
having this work done, than
It's
having
really
someone
true.
point it out. Like there's never a time where I'm going like, oh shit, I shouldn't have helped. Like I shouldn't have brought that up.
No.
Because I know it would be more like, oh shit, I should have brought it up. Like
Yes.
she actually wants to do
No,
that.
I really want to do the
Yeah.
work.
So I'm just saying like that's
Right.
quite clearly evidence. Yes.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. Okay. I also think that someone without an energy as intense as mine would never be able to work alongside of me. You have very intense energy as well. It comes out differently. But like, do you know, like I'm such an intense human being, speaking of our soul contracts and our healing work. There's nothing I do comes out without intensity. I mean, in fact, we had a conversation.
I was just going to say this.
Okay, about the podcast because we are doing it on video.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things about me that I'm learning to embrace is that I'm just a difficult person. I'm difficult. I want everything a certain way. I'm not go with the flow. You would never describe me as go with the flow.
No.
I am not go with the flow. I create the fucking
You
flow.
make the flow.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I control the flow, damn it. Okay. So we had this conversation like, hey, we did it at a table for the first 2 episodes.
Right.
And I watched it and I was like,
Don't like it.
it's not the right vibe. And you were like, we do look a little like newscasters, I get it. But I'm like, no, we
need a couch now.
We
We need a couch now.
immediately change it to the couch.
Immediately.
And your response was like, okay, but like your husband did a lot of work to get the setup we have. And so like maybe you could live with it for a little while.
Just see how it goes.
And my response was,
No.
literally, that's all I wrote. No.
I was going to reference
Yeah.
a different conversation.
Oh, I was being difficult somewhere else.
No, where you were saying that you were intense.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't find you to be very intense.
Well, that's because you're also intense.
Exactly.
We had a conversation about someone, I will not disclose who, that they weren't maybe quite intense enough for you.
Oh, yes.
So
Right. Yes.
I don't think there's a person on this planet who would not use the word intense to describe me, maybe besides you.
Yeah, I've never felt like overwhelmed, but I'm sure that's because we're probably at the same.
We're at the same intensity level.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In fact, I actually Marco Polo'd you the other day, and I think I was distracted while I was doing it, and so I was not as intense. Mm-hmm. And you were literally like, "Are you okay?"
I did do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like that. I think
Right.
you're just used to the level.
Gotcha.
So, okay. But that's who you should be doing healing work with.
Yes.
Is people who are on that same level, who like want to do the work too. Like if you're trying to like force it down a friend's throat or like your spouse's throat and they're just like not
don't
there,
do that. Yeah.
it's gonna end badly.
It really is.
Okay, you said this before, but it doesn't mean perfect. No. There's no perfection. There's no, even if you had this like gauge, like let's say I'm healed when I get to this reaction if someone brings up, you know, this issue that is connected to my dad in childhood or something.
Right.
And then I hit this weight and then I'm no longer anemic or whatever you've got, right?
Yeah.
Has two
goals, right?
I'm formerly anemic and currently anemic person.
Right.
Like, let's say that's what you do.
Right.
And then you hit those and you get there.
Right.
You're something else is going to go off. Like, you're never going to achieve that, and it's never going to feel good.
The way I think about perfection is like, say you could magically get there.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Literally impossible.
Yeah.
But say you did. You would then spend the rest of your life white knuckling to maintain that perfection.
That's
you wouldn't
such
just,
a
like,
good point.
You wouldn't just like hit perfection and then coast and be like laid back.
It's all a downhill slide from
You know what I
here.
mean? It's like you would then be trying to micromanage everything so you could stay perfect.
And how is that healthy?
We're literally here
Yeah.
to grow.
Yes.
Like, we're literally here for this human experience to grow and change and evolve and learn and like unlearn things and relearn. Like, perfection is the antithesis of why we're here.
Yes, I agree. Do you know what used to bug me? It's still a little bit, but I understand it a bit better now. But it used to bug me when I was younger because, again, I perceive the world slightly different than others. We've talked about this many times. Is that people seem to have this expectation that life should never go wrong.
Right.
Do you know what I mean by that? Like, first of all, you get to be as pissed off as you want that life went wrong.
Right.
But I'm that person for sure. Look at my hair, Jamie. Shit goes wrong. Okay.
Mistakes are made.
Mistakes get made. Things happen, right? Like,
right.
But I don't walk through life expecting them not to.
Right.
I walk through life being like, that's going to happen. I hope it doesn't, but that's just what it is.
And when it does happen, I can handle it.
I can handle it.
Or I can call the resources in to handle it.
Yeah, and I'll get through it.
Right. I'll figure it out.
I'll have to. I don't have a choice. Right? Like, but there's something that happens, and I don't know if it's like a generational thing. I don't know if it's in like, I can see ties to where it could be in like religious teachings of like, if you achieve this thing or this level, life will be easier. If you're a good person, bad things won't happen to you.
Right.
But even that there's a saying that like bad things happen to good people, it's kind of like, duh.
Right, exactly.
Like, and what does it mean to be a good person? Like, like it's so layered, and I feel like this expectation that it's like supposed to go well all the time.
Yes.
It really screws people up. Whereas if you don't have that expectation, you like hope for the best, sure, but you know it's not always going to be like that, and you don't take it like personal or like, oh, I must be unworthy, or I must have like screwed something up, or made somebody mad.
Yeah,
that's not what it is.
No.
So when you have that perfection, you get stuck there.
Yep.
Okay, there's a big connection that people have between self-worth and like quote unquote up leveling.
Oh, really? Who?
Everyone in the world. Literally. Okay. So here's the thing.
I disagree.
People think that because they have done healing work.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like on the spiritual side of it. You could have done it more, like you could be going to therapy.
Right.
That they are somehow now better than those who haven't. In fact, any cult that's based on some kind of belief system, I think of like Scientology as a good example, because that's like front of mind with everything going on right now with that. Right. It's really based on the belief that people doing that work are better than the people who aren't.
Yeah, like a superiority.
Or like a Jehovah Witness. You're going to walk over everyone else to go up the magical staircase or whatever, who didn't do this work.
Not very nice.
Right.
But this is a side note.
No, it's true. I mean, you're going to go, if you do the work, you get to go to like the nice place.
Right. Everyone else.
I guess it's heaven. Right. And which is really just
paradise.
Like socialist paradise.
Yes, it is very
it's like communism.
Yes, exactly.
And then just find that interesting. And then if you don't hit the mark, whatever the mark is, then you have to go like to eternity in like raggedy clothes with fire, and it's really hot
forever.
The heat. Oh my God, the heat, right? Like it's like a weird setup, but I think that puts this thing in people's brains that they're better if they do the work. Like a lot of the patriarchal like divine figures are considered perfect.
Right.
But like if you look back at pagan gods and goddesses,
They are not.
none of them are
Right.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also fueled by this sort of like rugged individualism that we are choking on from our society.
Yeah.
Right? That like, I'll do what's best.
Yeah.
I'll get what I need
Yeah.
to like get whatever it is that this like either be like a 1%er. I'll be a billionaire someday, or
Yeah.
I'll get into heaven and leave you fools behind. Like,
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
like-
that's what the setup is, right?
It's like you're on your own, kid.
That's a good point, because then it really takes you out of your empathy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one, Jay.
Thanks.
Well done. I think I need to think about that for another minute. So let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Let me digest that more, and we'll be right back.
All right, Heather. I have a question, first of all, for the listeners.
Ooh.
Because I feel like the Obsessed segment could sort of... I'm feeling pulled in different directions.
We've talked about this. Yes.
Sometimes I feel like I want the Obsessed to be talking about like... Sometimes I'm like, I want the listeners to know about this creator on TikTok that I love.
Yes.
And just share that person.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I feel like the Obsessed is like Jamie's sort of like 30-second like radicalization program. Like, can I share this like anti-fascist information to like bring everyone with me?
That's a very
know what I mean?
Scorpio rising way of looking at it. But yes.
Like these hits of information about like where fascism is like really hitting hard here in America.
Did you just hear like an Archangel Michael
I did.
bang? Okay. I don't know if you guys
heard
could
it.
hear that, but it was like,
Maybe he wants me to go that way.
I think that's some encouragement. It was like when you said the word fascism. Okay. Continue.
But so I haven't decided. But
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to lock myself into anything.
Well,
but
listen, you're a variety person.
I am.
I'm a certainty person. So
Right.
I actually already came up with a solution to this, and then I'll let you tell your. I don't know what your obsessed segment is, but
it's actually none of it. It's
Okay.
just something different.
okay, so good, because I just think this should be a segment. Like
Right.
I had a conversation with a listener. Hi, Courtney.
Oh,
And
hey,
she was
Courtney.
like, I want to be on the obsessed segment.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I
Right,
was like,
right.
why couldn't we have a listener like
We could.
send us some audio clips or like and talk about it or talk with somebody? Like it can
What are they
literally it's
obsessed
just
with?
so this is
Right.
literally just a segment.
Gotcha.
And it's something we're obsessed with because we're obsessed with anything that
Okay.
has to do with any of this.
Gotcha.
So that's my way of putting certainty on the variety that you need in this segment.
Love it. Okay.
Go ahead.
Great.
See our episode on human.
Desires and fears.
Thank you. Okay.
This is actually apropos of none of that. It's more
Perfect.
of like the conversation that we're always having about this spirituality to white supremacy pipeline,
Yes.
right? And I don't know if any of you have seen this guy on TikTok. His name is Felix Cipher. I'll post it.
Yeah.
It's like this big drama about him, and he well, I showed you the screenshot of him.
You turned it and turned it back really quick.
And you were like, he looks like Hitler.
I did say that.
And that's because he's purposefully trying to look like Hitler.
Okay.
And he's saying he has a nose ring,
Yeah.
he has a septum piercing.
Yeah.
That is like big and black. It's like a black stone. And
It
so
looks like a
like
Hitler
a Hitler
mustache.
stash,
Yeah.
right?
Can I just
Really?
side note that your new nose ring looks amazing?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you
Sorry.
very much.
Continue.
So I was like, what's this guy's problem? He's clearly starving for attention.
Yeah.
He's mentally ill. Like you can feel it. You can feel that
Yeah.
he's mentally ill.
Yeah.
But
But
he then starts, his whole shtick is that he's Hitler reincarnated.
oh no.
That in a past life, he was Hitler. He has a scar to prove it right here where he killed himself.
What does getting a scar in this life have to do with that?
Like it shows like that he was
That's where he
born.
died.
That's where he died. That's where Hitler killed himself.
Don't get me started.
He's wearing this thing. He speaks German and talks openly about eugenics.
It's like the people who are like, I'm pretty sure I was Jesus in a past life.
Right. And like all of this is terrible and awful.
Yeah.
But this is just a prime example of the things like when you start saying like, he said, I'm very familiar with my past lives. I've done a lot of past life work, and I'm like, here we go again, ruining it for everybody. You're ruining it for everybody, because now I don't want to talk about past lives with other people because you sound like this guy.
Exactly.
You know? So it's like, I'm doing nothing but complaining, but I'm just saying that, like, this is sort of the full illustration of how people take spirituality and harm. They do real harm.
They do.
Like calling for eugenics, calling Hitler's energy forward, like, it's gross.
Just like getting people to watch your
for engagement,
TikToks just by doing outrageous things like that.
Right.
It's gross. I don't think it's you complaining, though. I think it's you pointing out a problem and speaking out about it. There's a difference between complaining and, like, being like, I need people to know about this so that this doesn't continue.
Right. And I'm quick to, like, make fun of us white ladies.
No, wait, you?
Me. All the time. Quick to call out the white women. Because I am a white woman.
Right.
So it's my job to call us out for our ridiculous behavior in a lot of different arenas.
Absolutely.
But, like, this guy is a white guy, like...
Of course he's a white guy.
And people are all over him. Like, I see I see people all over stitching and calling him out, and, like, you know, that's great. But it's a real problem for everybody, but also for, like, this, like, spirituality stuff. Well,
Agreed.
Whatever industry we're in.
Agreed. Can I say something slightly silly?
Yeah.
If Hitler was back, do you think he would want anyone to know that he was Hitler?
Exactly.
Of course not. He would be, if that same unhealed energy was back,
right,
that he would never be saying who he was before. He'd be trying to take over in some other way.
Exactly.
By saying he, like, excludes himself from leading anything.
Exactly.
So, nice try.
It's just like a sad vie for attention.
It's gross.
But it's not good for a lot of different reasons.
Truly.
So.
Truly. Okay.
Just be aware.
Be aware, and don't get a nose piercing that makes you look like Hitler. It's probably not a good idea.
Stop.
Yeah. Okay, Jay. I want to know personally what your connection between feeling safe and feeling healed is.
Oh, Lord.
I know.
Feeling safe.
And feeling healed.
So,
well, I'll give you a second to think about it. I didn't warn you. I was asking you this. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people get sort of in that almost addicted cycle.
Yeah.
And almost like a panic, especially people like you were bringing it before who are fight.
Right.
They get in the space because they feel like it's going to be, they're unsafe if they haven't become the most healed version of themselves.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even if you logically know that not to be true, you probably have some story written that you're safer if you're healed more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was actually going to say that I think at first my ego feels unsafe.
Doing the work.
Healing.
Yes.
But then once you get through it and start working on it, then I do think there is a touch of that, like, oh, I'm healing, I'm doing the work. So, like, I'm safer, I'm more able to, like, deal with things as they come, which is good.
Yes.
But I think you're right, it probably could swing to being unhealthy.
So looking at where you have put safety and healing. So people who are, like, very afraid to do any kind of healing work.
Right.
It is very unsafe to heal.
Yeah.
Until you shift that relationship.
Yeah.
You won't be able to do the work.
Yeah, I know lots of people like that too.
That's why I asked those questions that you were referring to before. Like, what happens if you don't do it? Tell me what happens in your life. What does your life look like in 10 years if you don't do this?
Right.
If you don't work on this? If you don't push through this? And people are like, oh.
Right.
And then I go, what does it look like if they do? And it's like this really easy way to, like, short circuit your ego to help you.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like it sounds like it's not nice.
What's happening?
I hope that's picked up on the mics.
I do too. We're not going to edit this out.
No, we're leaving it.
Okay.
But also because for the video, our faces during that must have been amusing. I mean, your face was funny and I was looking at you. So if you couldn't hear that, there was just like 20 bangs to when I, like, bang, bang, bang on the wall. And I had referenced that before, like with Archangel Michael when you were talking in the Obsessed segment. So
yeah. It's a lot.
Hey, Michael.
Hey.
If you don't know what we're talking about, see our episode on Archangel Michael. It's a good one.
It's a shameless self-promotion for Michael.
Why have we called Michael in so much for healing?
For protection.
Oh, because I'm talking about it not being
Not
safe.
being safe.
Okay, thank you. All right, well,
It's true. I mean, it can feel really scary.
Yes.
Like I know people who like would rather suffer.
Yes.
Like they have active trauma.
Yes.
And they would rather suffer on like
Yeah.
an unconscious level, subconscious level.
Yeah. Yes.
It feels that scary to look at your shit, to feel your shit, especially if you've never been taught like emotional regulation, emotional management.
Yeah.
If you don't have higher levels of like social emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
That is scary. It's
so scary. And listen, even if you are someone who's interested in doing the healing work, you are showing up for it. When you start this work, like let's say someone like back when I was doing sessions, they came in for their first session.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going for the scariest issue? No, they're going for the I want to adjust they're entering with the small ones. Now, the small ones are always very indicative of the big one. As soon as you tell me the small issue, I'm aware of the big one.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not braggy. I think most healers feel that way.
Yeah.
But like those, you're going to start with the safe ones. I know for me personally, the idea of spending money on myself back when I was struggling with money to be better, to like heal, especially the like mental struggle and the adjustment of like adjusting to becoming a mother. It was a rough ride for me.
Right.
The idea of doing that was so scary.
Yeah.
That it was so hard for me to do. I had to fight that monster every single time I did it.
Right.
So the point is that yes, when you see those people who are not interested in doing the healing work and they sit in their little, even less than mediocre life and don't try for better, it can make you go, why?
Right.
But the truth is that it's so unsafe to do any of it. But even for the people doing the work, there's parts of it that you protect because it's the most unsafe.
Right.
And the more work you do, the more your ego doesn't believe that anymore.
Exactly.
Like I feel like with you and I, of the work we've done, there's few things that our ego is going to really stop us from going to it. You'll feel the resistance, but it's not that big anymore.
Exactly.
So the more you do it, the better. But really looking at your relationship to safety and your relationship to healing is a really, really helpful thing.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. What do you associate with the word unhealed?
Shadow.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they hear unhealed, think lazy.
Really?
Yes. Like, oh, that person's not trying to heal themselves. Because we're taught to believe that.
That's not nice.
Yeah. Well, think about the kids who struggle to get good grades in school.
Yeah.
At least when we were in school, were they labeled because like, oh, the way that they're taking in the information just isn't working for them?
No, they were lazy.
They were just like lesser, right?
Yeah.
That's the messaging. It's not true.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So if you're unhealed, there's this like look down upon.
Yeah, like
these
inferior.
Are the people. Yeah, and again, this is the people in the cults, the Scientology, the Teal Swan people, the Doreen Virtue people. They're like, I'm looking down on my nose at you because you haven't done the healing work I've done.
Right.
That's the whole vibe.
Right.
But unhealed is not lesser.
No.
Also, unhealed in yourself, if there's an area that, like if I said, hey, if I was having a conversation with someone, like, it looks like you could do some healing around this area. I'm not saying you suck.
No.
I'm saying you could feel better.
Yeah.
There's no level of worth connected here. Mm-mm. So I just feel like looking at your own stuff, because you've got anything that you haven't like created a new definition for, you've got someone else's.
That's a good point.
So if you haven't really thought, what does unhealed mean to me? What do I associate with it? Then you have just associated other people's stuff that you've been taught or that you kind of picked up.
That's a good point. And I think also if you have a misaligned definition of health, like if it's leaning towards perfection,
right?
You're going to have a really hard time. I've personally had this problem admitting to what's not healed in you.
Yeah.
Because not even because I didn't want to admit it personally, but because I want to look like I have my shit together.
Well, right, because
it's not safe for me to admit that like I don't have this all together.
I mean, it's the biggest vulnerability ever,
right.
I think, right? Is
right.
to show that. And so if vulnerability isn't safe,
right,
then letting someone know that you have a part of you that's unhealed
right.
is very unsafe. For me personally,
right.
If I'm at a place where I feel like I'm starting to heal it, I can share it.
Right.
If I'm in the thick of it,
yes,
I don't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for anyone to see that. Like I don't feel powerful enough yet around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you and I are usually waiting until we feel like we've got something, like we're managing a problem before we talk about it.
Yes, like the things that I can talk about so easily are like I could easily talk to people about eating disorders and like body image issues and postpartum depression and those kinds of things. But that's because I'm not in those places anymore.
Right.
Do those things still affect me?
Yes.
But I'm not, I feel like more powerful next to them.
Right.
But an issue that felt like it had a lot of power over me,
right.
like if I was struggling with it, there would be very few people who I would share that with.
Well, because not only am I struggling with that thing,
yeah,
but then I have to also manage your perception of me.
Yes.
So the load's too heavy. It's too much work for me to like worry about you worrying about me. Right? Yes. Or worrying about that you think I'm weak, or worrying about like that you think I'm not tough or strong or whatever, whatever that
you're going to see me
is.
As lesser somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's too much while I'm already sort of doggy paddling and trying to keep my head above water. Like that's too much work.
Yes. And it's why a lot of people, like using the doggy paddle scenario, it's why a lot of people drown.
And don't ask for help.
Exactly. Because to reach out to a therapist, to reach out to a friend, to go say something to somebody is so fucking hard.
It is.
Especially when you're struggling with it.
Yes.
It is beyond difficult. And even though I know if I came and told you, or I told my husband or my mother or something like, hey, I'm struggling with this, even though I really do know in my logical mind that you would not think lesser of me, well, you would already figured it out probably, but like, do you know what I mean? Like I know that there's still gonna be a big fear around that presenting of a vulnerability, and that I have so little control of how you're gonna take it. So if you can start to heal some of that, if you can at least have a script that runs alongside of that, that like healing is something that, or doing that work is something that strong people do.
Exactly.
Because it takes so much strength.
Exactly.
That being vulnerable in that way is a sign of strength.
Exactly.
It's not a weakness.
Agreed.
If we can really look at that, I think it would help.
Yeah.
It's always going to be hard though.
Yeah.
It's that initial speak out. Hey, I got to tell you something. This is hard.
Exactly.
Then once it's out, it's fine.
Right.
For me, anyways, that's how it's like to say it. Because like first you have to admit it to yourself.
Right.
Because that's hard. And then you have to say it out loud. Like it becomes real if you voice it.
You can't take it back.
It's a spell. You said it aloud. It's
exactly.
true. Yeah. Okay. The other thing I want to look at here is this sort of victim blaming / toxic positivity connected with people who aren't healed. So we've kind of addressed the victim blaming, like, oh, you haven't healed your relationship with money. Is that why you're poor?
Right.
That's so stupid and so ignorant. And no,
absolutely.
Can that work help? Yes. Right. But is somebody, like you said before, who's struggling to get by going to have time to like sit down and, work on their vows? No. Right. So like it's so ignorant to come from that place. These things have to happen alongside of each other.
And you also have to check like your privilege.
Exactly.
Right. Like what socioeconomic status are you coming from?
Yeah.
Like what things have you been afforded in your life?
Yeah.
Like you have to acknowledge that other people don't have certain privileges.
Or even just how healed were the people who raised you.
Right, exactly.
What access did they have?
Right.
What kind of environment did you grow up in? Even if it has nothing to do with the money.
Right. But did you go to school like as a neurodiverse kid?
Yes.
Having to learn like in a school system that didn't help you. So like maybe you don't have the profession that you wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many different variables at play that you can't blame people.
No, it makes no sense.
No.
It really, really doesn't. And like, you don't know someone else's trauma. You don't know someone else's story. You don't know why things are unsafe for other people. And the thing is, like, the more empathic you are and the more this work you do and like hear other people share, the more you understand that. Like, people are always like, oh, I don't want to tell you something because I might judge you. And I'm always like, it's really hard for me to judge you.
Right.
Like, really hard, because like, for me, I'm so used to hearing these like deep stories of like what someone struggled with that they maybe don't share with a lot of people.
Right.
And so to like just look at someone and to sort of blame them for not being where they're supposed to be because they didn't work hard enough or didn't do the healing work makes the smallest amount of sense. Like, it's not a sensible thing to do. No, don't do it. If you are associating the toxic positivity with it, you got to check that too.
Yeah.
And I think it's really helpful to try to make sure you clock that in language. Like, if you're like, should I do this program or sign up with this coach or buy this book?
Right.
How much toxic positivity is connected to the healing in this?
Yes.
That's going to tell you a lot. If you see it there, walk away.
Yeah.
So for example, like, if someone said to you, like, once you, like, I don't know why this is in my brain, once you learn runes, you will never struggle financially ever again.
Right, exactly.
I see stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's
Not
not true and not how it works.
Right.
Could
Or
learning runes improve some of that
Yes.
stuff? It absolutely could. It's another tool for you to do that stuff. Like,
Right.
absolutely. But is it a magical fix for everything?
No, and it's also like this whole high vibe thing.
Yeah.
Like, use this product or this modality to raise your vibration, which will work
Yeah.
for 30 minutes.
I was going to say, like, there's so many other factors to your quote unquote vibration.
Right, but when you like you're doing all this stuff, you're using the oils, you're doing the sound bowls, you're doing all this shit, and those things work in the moment, but you have like unhealed trauma from when you were 6 years old.
You're just going to get dragged right down again.
You have to heal that stuff.
Yes. And again, you can't judge someone for not, because they might not have access to that. They might not have access to those tools.
Right.
So it's just, the more we talk about it and put it out there and like make it accessible,
Right.
and the more we take it away, like, which is the whole reason for this Real Talk segment, from the like yucky places of it,
Yep.
the better.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to bring up a word that bugs me.
What?
And I know a lot of people use it, and I know that they don't mean it bad.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, I'm kind of bracing. I was like, do I say this or do I not say it?
You have to say it.
I have to say it because I want people to know more than I care if it maybe makes somebody uncomfortable from it or they have to like reflect on something.
What is it?
It's the word wholeness.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a red flag for me.
Okay.
If someone's like promoting some sort of healing and the hope or the end goal is wholeness. Because what does that mean?
Is that just like a workaround perfectionism?
That's what it feels
Feels
like.
like that.
And when I read like a lot of, and listen, this isn't for everything. Like there's a Brene Brown thing about like wholeheartedness that's like really great. Like that's a different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, but it's this like, become whole.
Yep.
And I'm just kind of like, what? I am whole. I might be struggling, or I might have a story that's holding me back a little bit from having a better experience, but it's not, I'm not less because of it. Like, it gives me this idea that like the opposite of whole would be like missing something or lesser.
Right. When, to your point, that like just being born and being alive,
I'm already whole.
You're already whole. You're already worthy. You're like, those things aren't up for negotiation. You can't lose them. You can't earn them.
No.
You just are whole. You are worthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It just gives me the ick.
Gotcha.
And I don't think people mean it badly all the time.
No, I know.
It's
I
just,
know what you mean.
Just clock it. Let it be a red flag and then explore further, because maybe it's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't like when people say like become whole.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I can't become whole. I am whole. Yeah,
right.
Thank you. All right. I like to bring this up because it's one of my favorite things. The spiral staircase.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I say this as often as possible.
Same.
Yeah.
I will bring it up
Yeah.
If you give me a little tiny nugget of a segue to talk about the spiral
Force
staircase,
my way in.
Yep. Elbows are flying. I'll get there and we'll talk about it.
Yep.
Okay. A lot of people have this misconception that like they haven't healed something because an issue is repeating itself in their life.
Right.
So this is kind of like a bad news, good news moment.
Right. Just a realistic moment.
Yeah. The bad news is that even when you're healing stuff, the same issues are going to repeat.
Right. Because that's why you're here.
That's just like it's like a lesson that,
right.
Listen, I don't have all the answers to this, but it's very clear to me in the amount of work and study and research I have done into this kind of work that human beings come here with like 2 or 3 main lessons and a lot of lessons that come off of that.
Right.
And like in this lifetime, somewhere you signed up to work on these things.
Agreed.
Does that mean that I think you signed up to have a terrible, traumatic, abusive thing happen to you?
No.
No, I will never believe that, and I will argue with anyone who says that.
Same.
I think that's bullshit, and it
is bullshit.
It's not okay to say to people.
No, that's victim blaming.
It is absolutely victim blaming.
Doing that.
I don't think that at all. I think that shit happens because we have free will here, and there's things that happen that are bad that sometimes, because of the fact that you're so programmed into a lesson, sometimes if you choose it, you can have that be something that it hurts you but also can help heal you.
Right.
That I believe.
Yeah.
But not that you called in some bad
No.
shit. I will never. That is so toxic. I can't.
No, you called in a miscarriage, or you called in a rape or something
No,
like that. Never.
No, you did not. Take yourself off the hook for that right now because it's not okay. And don't ever, if you say it to someone, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
I'll show up.
Right.
You don't know how, but I will. Or Jamie will. One of us. Or both of us. Watch out. But on this spiral staircase, the same lessons are going to repeat over and over again in your life.
Right.
In slightly different forms. And it's going to piss you off.
Yep.
So that's the bad news. The good news is that you're on a spiral staircase. And the more healing you do, the more you travel up the staircase.
Right.
So the same issues are happening, but you're in a different place when they do.
It's a different vantage point.
Think about the first time a big, hard, shitty lesson hit you. And think about 10 years later, that same lesson coming back and what that's like, even just for your nervous system to deal with.
Oh, good point.
Right? It still sucks.
Yep.
It can still be jarring and difficult. It's still a struggle. It's still bad. But it's not the same as when you were at like the entry level of it. You've gone up the stairs, so you're at a different angle. You have more tools to deal with it. You've done some work to unpack it. And so now from this angle, this same lesson is teaching me something else. I'm growing in another way.
Right. I also, when I think of the spiral staircase personally, it's always like when I was first dealing with something, it's like I was on the ground floor with it. Face to face.
Yeah.
Like it was right. The only thing I could see was this problem, and it was like
it's like a monster
trauma,
you're fighting.
Right? It's like a trauma. The response is trauma response, high alert,
hand-to-hand combat.
You're fighting a woolly mammoth, right?
Yes.
But then you start healing and traveling up the staircase, and then at a certain point, you're like on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
So you're looking down on it.
Yeah.
So you feel more powerful,
and you got a bag of tools with you,
and you can also see the whole room.
Yes, the perspective.
The perspective changes. It's not like it's in your face and it's like you're fighting for your life. It's like, oh, I see the woolly mammoth down there, but I also see like some bows and arrows. Like you know what I mean? Like, or I see someone coming up to help me. Like, the perspective is so different.
Yeah, and it's a lot safer to be on the 4th floor with a woolly mammoth
you have
than
distance
face to face.
Right, you have so much distance from it.
That's such a good point.
So you're not in fight or flight anymore. You're like, you might get a little kick of that, right?
Of course,
a little adrenaline starts to roll through you, but you're not in like shut down.
No,
fight, flight, all that. Like you're like, okay, all right, we got this. This sucks, but we got this.
And even to that same point, even if you're high up on the staircase. You could have been 2 flights down and it felt easier, but suddenly from this angle it feels a little harder this time. Like what's going on? You have not gone backwards.
No.
It's just the way this is hitting something else.
You're learning more about it.
Yes, everything is so connected that there's no area that you're healing something that you're not healing it across the board.
Right.
But there's other things attached to other places. So like you're just bringing up something else.
Right.
But it's so important to know this because if you're like, why do I keep repeating the same lesson? I must be screwing up. No, you're probably actually doing really well.
Exactly.
So I think that's important. I'm going to say something that every time I say it, nobody likes it. But everyone, they get on board, but they hate it. Okay, it's a truth. I think people don't like to admit that healing and struggling are the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Healing is struggling. You wouldn't be struggling if you weren't healing.
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the only way you can heal is to use your intuition.
Right.
Because your desire has to alert you to the fact that it wants something better.
You want to feel something different.
Yeah. So immediately you're struggling if that happens because you're not feeling a thing you want. That's struggle.
Right.
So struggling is healing.
Gotcha.
So if you're like, this healing, like, look how great it looks.
Right. This is so easy.
No.
Right.
No.
Correct.
No. If you feel something's easy, you are just at a place where your intuition hasn't desired for you to adjust or like
keep going.
Yeah, it's just going like, stay here for a minute. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, we need rest. We need breaks.
Absolutely. It's cyclical, right?
Yeah.
But like I feel like people think that you should be struggling when you're not healing.
Right.
But a lot of times what looks like peace in other people is actually like misery because they don't feel like they're powerful enough to get from point A to point B.
People think that you are struggling, but then once you start healing, you feel better.
Yeah.
But it's actually the opposite.
Exactly. The struggle is
the
healing.
indicator that you need to heal.
If you start struggling, it's because you're starting to heal.
Right. You're starting to realize you don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, and you might have that realization and go, nope, and turn around.
Right.
That's okay. People do that all the time. You got to be
Yes.
ready. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But you're not struggling yet.
Right. That's a good point.
If you're struggling, you're healing. 100% of the time. There's no exception.
Point.
Okay. In the same zone, people don't really like this one either, but it's true. Okay. Healing when you love yourself versus healing when you think you're less than are two very different things.
That's a good point.
So I know when you say like love yourself, it sounds like a little mushy gushy, pokey, but like, what's your motivation for healing?
I want a better experience. I love myself enough to have a better experience.
Want
a better experience.
But I bet you can conjure up the image of someone right now very easily who their motivation for healing is to not be lesser anymore, or because they are lesser and need to become quote unquote whole,
or because they want more. They want more money. They want more status.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's coming from a place I don't want to say it's hating yourself because I don't believe that, but it isn't loving yourself.
Gotcha.
Loving yourself is hard, and it's not like absolute. Like you don't just click a button and you love yourself. Trust me, if there was a button, I would have pressed it a long time ago. Right? It's a journey. Like everything, it's a spectrum. It's like where you just keep trying, but like the things you're doing out of the motivation of disgust in yourself or not liking something about yourself versus the things that you're doing because you fucking deserve it. Those are two very different energies, and I can tell you which one's getting to the finish line and which one isn't.
Right. It's just really bad energy to be like,
yeah,
I fucking hate this about myself. Like,
yeah,
it's just such a bad energetic place to like try to motivate yourself from.
And
it'll work at first. It'll work it'll work a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can't sustain that.
It's not sustainable. No. It reminds me of the TV show The Biggest Loser.
Yes.
Which is just
abuse.
And like people who are, it's not the people's fault, but they're like, oh, the way to get here is to hurt myself.
Yes.
That you attract that when you do that. So like if you're going like, because I suck, that's why I need to do this. Right. You're going to start attracting in resources that make you feel lesser all the time. And the real reason your intuition alerted you to something, your desire was to feel better. Right. And all you're doing is feeling worse.
Doesn't work.
It's not going to work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. It's exactly what like I think of. I know I'm using like weight loss examples, but it's like a perfect match because like people who do these dramatic diets where they only eat like, I don't know, a granola bar and drink mint water or whatever it is, whatever the hot thing is at the moment, where you're like starving, you're like hurting your body and you're not intuitively doing something. They'll lose a lot of weight all of a sudden, but they'll put it back on plus extra
20,
because they're motivating themselves out of like hurting themselves.
Exactly.
Where if I'm always using this gauge, especially when it comes to how I feed my body, because I struggle with that, right? Am I doing this because I love myself? Am I restricting myself from having that because I love myself? The answer is probably no.
Right.
It's rare.
Right.
It's rare. Like, and it gets tricky in things like like for me, for some reason, my stomach really doesn't like it if I have like sugar at night. It's just like it's a bellyache situation.
Right.
So like sometimes I'm going to restrict that. Like, I want...
Because you don't want to feel badly.
Yeah, but do you see how it gets mushy where you really have to go like, no, out of love for it, I don't want to feel bad. I'm not going to have something, or I'm going to have a banana or something that I know is not going to, or like a tiny little piece of chocolate. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So like you really have to check in because everything's too muddy to know.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, you can do it from a place of I don't like this state, but you can't do it from a place of I don't like myself.
Me. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not going to work.
No.
And there's plenty of baby steps if you're there. If you're sitting, if you're listening to this going, well, that's where I am. There's a part of you inside. First of all, if you're listening to this podcast, it's led you here. But there's a part of you inside going, that's bullshit. I am worth it. I am lovable.
Right.
And there's a story, and we're stuck here in this place of not loving myself, but it's in there.
Right.
So that's just where you have to start stoking that fire. One last tip. Shocker that we would be a long episode when we did real talk about healing. Okay.
I can't believe it's one episode.
I know. Okay. It's intention versus expectation.
Yes.
If you go into anything, but like healing, certainly, and you're like, I expect these 10 things to happen when I do this healing work, you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
If you go in and go, I intend to feel these ways while I'm doing this, and for this to be how I move through this, you'll feel great.
But the point that you have to make is that expectation, intention.
Different things.
But when you say intention, you can't just switch the wording of the expectation to get the thing.
Yeah.
The main point is that it's the feeling.
Yeah, intention is a feeling.
I want to feel this way.
You don't have control over all the outcomes. Listen, control is my drug of choice. I'm a control addict junkie in recovery.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, kind of in recovery. The thing with control is that there are parts of it that are coping mechanisms that are okay.
Yeah.
But like everything, there's a tipping point to when it becomes very unhealthy. Right. Okay. So if you're trying to control all of these variables and outcomes that you don't have any control over, you're going to be disappointed because you're going to feel like you're not powerful. And that's not, feeling powerful, spoiler alert, and feeling healthy or well are very similar things. Right. So if you're like, I'm going to exercise for 6 weeks, 3 days a week. And then the thing is, my expectation is that I'll lose 20 pounds. Right. You can't fully control that. No. And every time you exercise, you're not going to lose 20 pounds. You're going to not be there. You're always going to be unable to control that. You're never going to hit it until this like far away point. And the motivation for that's going to run out real fast. Right. But an expectation is ego. Yeah. If you come from intuition, which is intention, and you go, I want to do this because I want to feel like this. And when I go in to exercising, I'm going to feel like this. Right. That's doable. Yeah. Listen, I don't know anybody who like looks forward, like right before they're about to go exercise, they're jazzed about exercising. I mean, some people, but rarely. Who? I don't know. I think they're fibbing. You think? Yeah, because it's not me. It's not me, and I like to exercise, but the thing is, like, it's going to be something that I'm going to be doing the work. I'm doing, like, actual work. Right. It's hard to be real excited about that. But if my intention is to just go get started and get to the place where I feel open to that experience, I'm going to win. Right. I win. No matter how I do or what the results are, and I'm happy I did it and it gave me something. But if I expect all this stuff... Right. This many calories, this much time. Yeah. It would be like expecting just because you got a good night's sleep to go run a marathon. I can't run a marathon. No. I could probably, if I had to do it, when life depended on it, I could do it on a bad night's sleep. But do you know what I mean? Right. Like, it doesn't make sense to have all these outside things connected. You can only control your emotional state. Right. So focus there. Gotcha. All right. Anything else you want to say about this healing? I think we covered craziness? A lot. I mean, I'm sure there's more also. Yeah. But I think this is a good start. It's a good start. So deep diving on this. We can return. Yeah. Let us know what your follow-up questions are. Yeah. All right. I think the healing work I need right now is coffee. What do you think? And lunch. Yeah.